Hello everyone, welcome to this part 3 of the Campaign of Doom. Today we are going to be pitting the two groups that have won their last game each against each other. So my opponent will be running their Spark of the Free People, and I will be running my Cleansers of the World, because these are the two groups that did the best in their games. Today the game we're going to play as well is the Opportunistic Theft, which means there will be 3 objectives on the table and we will be fighting over for control of them. So without further ado, let us show you the groups that we are going to be playing as today. For the Cleansers of the World, we have the Alchemist, who has a dagger, 2 Fanatics with pair of basic weapons on each, a Cultist with an axe. Now this was the free Cultist I got if you saw the end of game videos that we've been putting up for patrons. Also have my Healer with a staff, Thief with a dagger, Cultist with a bludgeon, and Marksperson with crossbow and dagger on the end. This comes to a total fighting group strength of 106. As for my opponent's Spark of the Free People, they have an Alchemist with basic weapon, Apprentice with basic weapon, 1, 2, 3 Pirates with basic weapon and pistol, Novice with basic weapon and buckler, Marksperson with bow and dagger, Marksperson with crossbow and dagger, and then an ex-soldier with 2 basic weapons. Now, so this group here actually comes to a fighting group strength of 143. So my opponent has actually decided that they're going to take away their newly bought Marksperson, and their pirate will take this one away, so that it actually brings them down to a fighting group strength of 111, which means they're only 5 points greater than mine, so there'll be no underdog bonuses for me. And with that, we are deployed. As you can see, we have 1, 2, 3 objectives. The aim of the game is to have the most number of models around an objective to claim it, and then whoever has the most number of objectives claimed at the end is the winner. Then we're going to go on and show you how we've deployed our models. So I've got my Marksperson right at the back here, and then my Thief next to him. Then we've got Cultist, Fanatic, and Healer over here. Coming to Cultist and Fanatic over here. And then finally, my opponent used their civilian misdirection to move my Alchemist 6 inches back, making a normal move with them. They were up here, and they scooted them all the way back over to here. Next we go on to my opponent's side. They have their Alchemist over here, ex-soldier and pirate in the middle here, Marksperson and Apprentice up on this building, and then finally pirate and novice over here. In my game, didn't actually get any special rules or special exploration to use, so I haven't affected my opponent or my side. Start of turn 1, let's see who gets the initiative. My opponent rolls a 2. I roll a 1, so I get a reaction token but go second, and my opponent will be going first. Now we're at the end of turn 1's movement phase. My opponent has moved up sort of in force over here with the Apprentice, Novice is hiding down here. Apprentice, Novice, Marksperson and Pirate. They've also moved down into the sort of sewery area with the Pirate and ex-soldier under there, and then the Alchemist on their own over in this corner. On my side, my Alchemist has moved back to the base of the bridge. Fanatic and Cultist have popped themselves around this building. Fanatic and Cultist are moving themselves down into here. Healer has stayed behind. My Thief has hidden himself at the back of the building, and the Marksperson has jumped up here to get a better view. So we are now going to head into the shooting phase. Start the shooting phase. My opponent is going to use the steel bullet from their Apprentice, one of their Alchemy, and is going to fire all the way over at my Marksperson. We've measured up. It is within 18 inches, so it is within the half range, meaning my opponent's penalty is only going to be -1 for moving. They will hit on a 3. That's a hit. Looking to wound, damage 4, resistance 3. That's a critical, and I've got to roll to see. Okay, I don't fall, because I would have potentially fallen off an edge there, but I do take 2 wounds for that. Final bit of shooting from my opponent. They were going after my marksperson, then realised their apprentice would be in the way of the shot, so they're not going to attempt that. Meaning they have to actually slightly adjust, and instead the marksperson is going after my healer because they can draw a line without going over the apprentice. However, it is going to be -3 for move, soft cover, and long range, making this a 6 to hit, which they don't. Next, for me, we only have 1 bit of shooting. My marksperson is going to try and get a little bit of revenge on the apprentice. They are within short range and there's no cover, but they did move with a crossbow, meaning there's a -2 penalty. So I'll be hitting on a 5. No, that's a 2. Oh, nowhere near. So with that, we are actually at the end of turn 1. Nobody is in range to make combat, so we're just going to move on to turn 2, where I didn't use my reaction token this turn, simply because there was nothing that I could react to. Start of turn 2, let's see what we roll. My opponent rolls a 4, I get a 2, so it's me going second with 2 reaction tokens, and my opponent going first. Partway through my opponent's movement phase, they were about to move their apprentice. My marksperson over here has decided he is going to take a shot at them. Because they haven't moved and there's no other penalties, this is just going to be hitting them on a 3. Yay, a 2, great. Now we're at the end of the movement phase after doing that reaction. My opponent has again sort of kept up over in this area over here, surrounding that objective. They have then also moved some models further under the bridge to get up on the objective that is actually just sitting here just off the bridge. And then finally their Alchemist has shifted up over this way to, I'm not really sure what they're going to do, but at least they're out hiding in cover. Then we come over to my side. My Alchemist has shuffled her way over here. Fanatic and Cultist have moved over this way. Thief is still hiding behind that building. Healer has come up here to help the marksperson. And then finally, the Cultist and the... we can just see him. The Fanatic is hiding down there under that bridge. So that's the end of the movement. We will now go on to the shooting. As we come into the shooting phase, first bit from my opponent, this marksperson is going to fire over at my marksperson. They will need a 5 because it is over 12 inches, it's about 13.5, and they have moved. So let's see if they can hit. They do. Then they're rolling to wound, so it's damage 3, resistance 3. And they get a critical, so that is that model removed, and we will mark up a 1 on the marksperson. Next bit of shooting, my opponent's apprentice up here is actually going to use another steel bullet, but this time they're going to target my healer. Helps if I remember which model it is. So they're looking at, in this case, they're going to be within the 18 inches, of course they are. They have moved, but this will grant no cover, so they're just looking at a 3 or more to hit. And they roll a 1, so unfortunately they miss. We are now at the end of turn 2 because that was the end of the shooting, but also the end of the turn itself, simply because, again, nobody is actually within combat. We're playing quite a cautious game here, it seems. Join us as we go into turn 3. Start of turn 3, I'll roll initiative first, getting a 2, and my opponent will also get a 2, so we'll roll again. They can roll. 3, 2, so I'll be going again, second, with a reaction token. For my opponent's first bit of shooting, it's actually going to be some Alchemy, with the number 5 Bullet Storm coming from this apprentice into... Now, it could pick 3 targets here, but unfortunately the only 2 that are in range is this one and this one. So they're both out with 6 inches, which means this will go from hitting on a 2 to a 3 for range, 4, 5 for hard cover. So my opponent's missed there. Here it'll be a 4, however, because it goes down to being soft cover, but is still long range and at least some sort of cover. So that's a hit there. Then my opponent's got a roll to wound. It's damage 3 against resistance 3. Ooh, and that is a critical, so they're going to take 2 wounds there. Next bit of shooting, my opponent's pirate here is going to shoot into my wounded fanatic. They will, however, need a 6 because it is more than 4 inches away, so it's long range and it is cover. Ooh, just one below what they needed. Now we come to the very last bit of shooting from my opponent. This marksperson is going to fire all the way down into my wounded fanatic. They will be hitting on a 4 because there is soft cover, but there's no other penalties. Ooh, just below what they needed. As for my shooting phase, the only bit I'm going to do is a Path of Righteous Flame from here, measuring 8 inches. It will get both of those models there. So we're going to start with rolling over here. We're going to roll for the ex-soldier, so this is damage 4. They don't take a wound. For the pirate, damage 4 against resistance 3. They take a single wound on the pirate, so my opponent's just going to go and mark that up. As we come into the combat phase, my opponent actually decided to do no combats because nothing they wanted was in range. However, I am going to charge my cultist up like so. Okay, I'll just pop them in front of the pirate, but they're a little bit further back. I have one attack with a bludgeon, hitting on a 4, which does damage 4 against resistance 3, so I'm getting a +1 to wound here. No, I fail, so my opponent attacks back, one attack hitting on a 4. No, so they need to run away on a 3+, which they do. So unfortunately, they're going to have to back away like so, and then I'm going to roll and get a 4, and with that I am actually going to go to here. So with all that said and done, that is actually the end of turn 3, only the one combat there. Join us as we finish off turn 3 and go straight into turn 4. Start of turn 4, no determination yet, and just the initiative phase. My opponent gets a 4, I get a 4. Let's try that again. My opponent gets a 1. I also get a 1. That was a worrying prediction. They get a 4. I get a 5. So I'll be going first and they will get a reaction token. As I was just starting the movement phase, my opponent has decided that this marked person is going to fire at this fanatic before they move. So they'll be looking at getting a 4 to hit because I've still got the benefit of soft cover. That's a roll to hit, and they're looking to wound, damage 3, resistance 3. Ooh, just not enough again. So with that, I'm actually going to move my fanatic like so, and pop them out of sight here. So with that, we have come to the end of the movement phase. As we can see, it's actually kind of all shifted around a bit, with models going in practically every direction to try and get shots off and various other things. So we're just going to go into the shooting phase and see what happens. First bit from myself, and actually the only bit from myself, I'm going to have my Alchemist use the Immolator on that model over there. So I'll just get a dice and roll it. Okay, so it does go off. They get this token, which means they need to now look at rolling for wounds at the start of each phase from the next one on. Actually, I tell a lie. I have one more bit to do, which is heal a wound. First bit of shooting from my opponent. Pirate is going to shoot a pistol down into this cultist down here. Looking for a 3 to hit, 'cause they'd be 4 normally, but they're within 4-inch range. They get a hit, looking at damage 4 against resistance 3. Ooh, that's a single wound. Not a double one, but there we go. Next for my opponent, we have a bullet storm coming in from this Apprentice, and it is going into this Cultist, this Fanatic, and this Alchemist. First of all, 3 up or more to hit this guy. Ooh, it's a 1. Nope. Next into the Fanatic, 4 up for him. It's a hit. Rolling to wound, it is damage 3 against resistance 3. That's fine, we'll fix that a bit later. And that is a single wound on him. And then finally to hit my Alchemist. No hit on the Alchemist. Next bit of shooting from my opponent. This marks person into this Fanatic. They're not within 4 inches and they have already reacted, so it's going to be a 4 because that will count as them having already moved. Ooh, and just not enough. Last bit of shooting from my opponent. This pirate is going to fire back at the Alchemist here. So we're looking at a 5 to hit because she is just over 4 inches away. Ooh, that's enough. damage 4 against resistance 3, so that's what my opponent gets. A 5, so that goes up to a 6 and causes 2 wounds. Before we actually get into the combat phase proper, I do have to roll for the pirate that is on fire. So we're looking for a 1. Yes, he is wounded, because on a 1-2 he takes a wound, 3-4 he's fine, 5-6 he puts himself out. So not only does he take a wound, but he is still on fire. As it turns out, my Fanatic is actually in range to blind charge my opponent's Alchemist, so I'm looking at a 4+ for his intelligence. No, doesn't get high enough, so he will not make the charge. So next my opponent is going to have this pirate jump down and sidle on up into my Cultist. 1 attack, hitting on a 4 with their sword. That's a hit, rolling to wound. That is a single wound. So I'm going to retaliate with my 1 attack, hitting on a 4. It hits, damage 3, resistance 3, no, damage 4 with a bludgeon. I get a 7 technically, so my opponent takes 2 wounds and then tries to roll to run away on a 3+, which they don't, so I don't hit, and I don't re-roll that because I didn't make the charge. My opponent gets the roll of run away, and they do, so they're going to run away. Like so, and then I'm going to go 1 inch, and I'm just going to sort of follow them. So that is us at the end of the turn. End of turn 4 it would be, so join us as we go into turn 5. Start of the new turn 5. First thing we actually have to do, because it's the start of a phase, in the initiative phase, is roll for this guy here on fire. Ooh, and unfortunately the fire goes out, so that model no longer has to roll for his wounds. So we have the initiative for turn 5. My opponent gets a 6. I get a 5. So I'll just borrow this counter here, and they'll be going first. So now we come to the end of turn 5's movement phase. Again, it's all been a bit of a mishmash with my opponent focusing on this objective, me backing away over here with the Alchemist, bit of focus over on this objective to try and keep it under my control, and then finally we've had a bit of skirting around over here to try and go after that objective in the back. So that's the end of the movement. We are now going to go into the shooting with my opponent going first. First things first, my opponent is going to use Bullet Storm from their Apprentice, and it's going to go into my Fanatic, Healer, and Thief. So to hit the Fanatic, it would be a 2 because the move penalty is cancelled out by being super close, and then they're rolling to wound, damage 3, so no wound there. To get a Thief would be a 5 because of movement and distance, no, and it would be a 6 to get the Healer, but if they roll a 5, it would actually hit him first. So let's see what they get. Ooh, a 4, so it hits nothing. So my opponent has decided over here, this marks person is going into this Fanatic. I will be getting soft cover because of where it's positioned, but my opponent will ignore that soft cover by the grace of firing within 4 inches. So they're hitting on a 3. And they get a 3, so that's enough. Looking at damage 3, resistance 3, let's see what they roll. Ooh, and they just fail to wound. Lastly, my opponent's pirate over here is going to fire into this cultist down here. It is within 4, so they'd hit on a 3, but I do get hard cover, so it goes back to a 5. See what they get. Oh, they get a 5. It's damage 4 against resistance 3. Let's see what they can roll. And just not enough to wound them. Just not enough. First bit of shooting for me. Number 1 Molotov cocktail from this Alchemist onto this point here. We've already measured up the point. Then I'm going to roll a dice into here. See if I can get it to go off. It goes off. So everyone within 4 inches takes a wound on a 5+. So let's do the pirate first because he's the most important. Oh, I saw that 6, but no. And then for the ex-soldier, he takes a wound, but he can ignore it on a 6. So my opponent's just going to quickly grab a dice. No. And then the Alchemist. No. So only the ex-soldier takes a wound there. Last bit for me is, yep, I'm going to heal that wound from my Fanatic. First bit of the combat phase. My opponent is going to have this guy here, this pirate, charge round into my cultist. They have 1 attack, hitting on a 4 with their sword. which hits, rolling to wound, which doesn't. I'm going to attack back, hitting on a 4, which I do, rolling to wound at damage 4, resistance 3. I also fail, so on a 3+, yeah, I back away. So I'm going to back away my 2 inches, and then my opponent's going to roll to see how far they go. 2 inches. So I'm guessing they're going to be backing away like so, simply so they can deny me coming up the stairs to get round to that objective. Next, my opponent's novice is going to come hurtling into my fanatic. They have 2 attacks. First, they're going to be with their basic weapon, which will be hitting on a 4. And it hits, rolling to wound, which it doesn't. They then have their buckler, which behaves like a dagger, so 1 attack hitting on a 4. No, it doesn't. I have 2 attacks with 2 basic weapons, hitting on 4s. 1 hits, damage 4, resistance 3. So I get a 2, so I fail, and I do run away. So I'm going to back away 2 inches like so. Then my opponent's going to roll a 4. Next, my opponent, for one of their last charges, was going to charge my fanatic, who will use a fight or flight reaction and is very much going to go and charge into base contact and fight first. Because not only do I get to attack first, I get rerolls on all my failed hits. So let's see what we roll. I get a reroll on this because I charged. Okay, so only 1 hits. Damage. That is a 4, but I'm minimum of +1, so that goes up to a 4, so they take a wound. Then my opponent will get to attack back, hitting on a 3. That's all right. Just pop him down there for now. Hitting on a 3, which does, roll into wound, which doesn't, and then they run away on a 3+, which they do. So they're going to be going, first things first actually, they took a wound, do they fall? No, they don't. Okay, so they're going to go like so, and then I'm going to go, actually, slight addendum, I'm going to go this way instead. Next, Fanatic over here is going to charge back into the Novice, like so. And I have my 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, but re-rolling. Both hit, looking at damage, what am I again? 4, damage 4, resistance 3. Perfect! And my opponent's going to attack back, 1 attack with the basic weapon first, which hits, roll to wound. Fails, and then the buckler, which fails to hit, so they're looking at a 3+ to run away. Which they get, so they're okay. And then I'm going to go 3 inches. So I'm actually going to go, I'm just going to go there, like so. Last charge for me we've worked out is going to be like so. And I have my 1 attack, which doesn't hit. My opponent gets their 1 attack, which doesn't hit, and they have no re-rolls. It's not in combat for the pirate, so they've got to try and run away on a 3+, which they do, and I go 2 inches. You, like, can't go any further, so I'm going to just go like so. That's us at the end of turn 5, so we are about to go into turn 6, which will be the last turn, because none of us can fail a pluck test at this point. Turn 6, we've somehow still not had determination nor pluck tests, so my opponent's going to roll, see what they get. 4. I get a 2, so they'll be going first, and I'll have my 2 reaction tokens. With that, we have come to the end of the movement for the last turn, so I'm covering up this objective over here. My other models are trying to surge over onto this objective in the last minute push while my opponent sort of catches up with them. Then over here we have my opponent with their Alchemist, Ex-Soldier and Pirate, who are all trying to sort of hold over this objective here. So you'll notice we have a little number 1 here, because my opponent is going to throw their high explosive shell from their Alchemist and have it try and go off here. So let's see what they roll. It goes off. It will get my Cultist, but it will not get my opponent's Pirate. So they're looking at a damage 5. So looking at pretty much a 1 to fail, a 2 to kill because of the situation he's in. And he's removed from play. Next, Marksperson down into my Fanatic. I can't react against this because of the Fanatic special rule, but my opponent has moved and is out with 4, so we're hitting on a 4. No, that's a 2. What is it with number 2s? Last, I think it's last. Yes, it is indeed. My opponent's Pirate into my Fanatic. It'll be on a 5 because he is within 4 inches to go down to a 3, back up to 5 for the cover. Rerolls for being a Pirate. He hits, roll to wound. He gets a single wound on me. There we go. Last bit of shooting in general is going to be from me. My Alchemist is going to use a Purifier on this point here if it goes off. It does go off. So I'm looking at a damage 2, resistance 3, so 5 or 6 will get that Pirate at last. Nope, 6 for the ex-soldier. Yes, but the ex-soldier will ignore that on a 6. No, so the ex-soldier is down to 2 wounds. And there we are. Are you ready? Are you ready to die? Yes, you are. First bit of charging from my opponent is from this model to this model. And look, once again, I'm going to react and go like so. So I'm going to charge in. I have my 2 attacks hitting on 4s. Oh, still count that one, that's fine. So that's 2 and... Fantastic! I did absolutely nothing, so my opponent gets to attack back. 1 attack, which hits, 1 attack, which wounds and criticals. That was a surprise. Oh. So they're going to roll to see what happens, how far they can go. 1 inch, so they're probably just going to shuffle back. Next, actually, very first thing I'm going to do, mark up the Pirate for his kill. And then on top of that, I am going to react to my opponent who is trying to charge me. So I'll react with 2 attacks. Hopefully this time I'll hit. Rerolling because I charged. Nope, only 1. Which does a single wound. So my opponent can ignore that on a 6 because of their buckler. No, so they take a single wound and they get to attack back. First of all with their basic weapon, which misses, and then their buckler, which hits, rolling to wound. It does wound, which unfortunately for them means we fight a whole new round because we have taken an equal number of wounds. So I get to go first. I did charge, so I reroll for the lot. That's to hit. And to wound. That is 3 wounds in total with that 7 and that 5 technically. My opponent, however, gets to roll 3 dice and each 6 is an ignored wound. Ooh, close, but they needed to get 2 of those. So unfortunately, they have been removed. I'm going to roll, and I'm just going to go and stand here. So I did think that was the last combat of the game, but actually it isn't. My Cultist is going to run over and attack my opponent's Pirate like so. So we have 1 attack for myself, hitting on a 3. No, hitting on a 4. No, my opponent with their attack hitting on a 4. Yes, rolling to wound. Ooh, they cause a wound on me. I don't back away from the combat, so they get to make another attack, which they hit, and they do wound, so they get to roll to see where they go from there. 3 inches. So I'm gathering that 3 inches is going to be towards the objective because, and we'll come back to you in a second. So yes, that is it. That is the end of turn 6 and the end of the game. So as we can see, I'm holding this objective. My opponent is holding this objective, and over here, we have measured it up. We have 1 model each in range of that objective. So it's a draw. As strange as that seems, it is actually a draw with 1 objective each and 1 contested. That was one heck of a game with us constantly going back and forth there, particularly towards the last few turns. And we somehow ended up on a draw. Okay, I have lost more models than my opponent, but hopefully we can make that up in the post-game, which, speaking of, the post-game will be up for all patrons, usually before Wednesday, so we'll have it up before then. If you are not a patron and you would like to see the post-game, you can subscribe at the Scoundrel tier for £2 a month, and you'll get access to post-game videos and other videos as well. or you can sign up for the Novice at £4 a month, where you will get the rulebook, the campaign book, and a variety of other tools for playing the game. Finally, you can go for the local hero tier, which gives us the most love. In that one, you will get access to far more things in terms of sneak previews, early access, and you will also get to see new rules and new models before anyone else on the Patreon. All that remains is for me to say thank you very much for watching, especially to our patron supporters who are named at the beginning of this video, and we will join you next week where we will be playing off the other two groups against each other. Join us then.